When you take your first steps into the world of the First Descendant, you'll be presented with a choice of 3 starting Descendants, but which is the best starting character for you? Hello and welcome, I'm Abrax, and in this video I'm going to go over the 3 starting Descendants in the First Descendant, looking at their abilities and playstyles to help you decide which is the best Descendant for you. First, a thank you to my supporters over on Patreon, more on how you can support at the end of the video. When you first get into the First Descendant, you'll be able to pick from Lepic, Ajax, and Viessa, each with their own looks, playstyles, 4 active skills and 1 passive skill, but that's where the differences end. No matter which of the 3 starting Descendants you choose, they all have the same starting attributes and can use any weapon type. However, the skills each character has leans them more into a specific role: damage, tanking, support, defining how you play them early game before you start unlocking more Descendants. First, let's start things off with Lepic. Lepic is the lone survivor of the legendary 44th Grenadier Squad, one of the most gallant squads along with the Helldivers during the first Anchor Stone mission. After losing his right arm on the mission, he was fitted with a newly developed prosthetic, refitting him to get back into the fight. He's reckless, but always gets the job done. Looking at his skills, his first skill is a nice, simple grenade, costing 30 mana to use and with a 10-second cooldown. This skill throws a grenade forward, inflicting skill attack times 123 explosive damage to enemies within 6 meter radius. His second skill is Power Stream, costing 20 mana with a 20-second cooldown. Using this skill puts Lepic in a Power Stream mode, increasing his skill attack by 10% for 18 seconds. Attacks with a grenade or the arm launcher in Power Stream mode adds burn effect to enemies. The burn effect applies skill attack times 15% as a constant damage every second for 5 seconds. His third skill is Traction Grenade. This costs 38 mana and has a 25-second cooldown. With this, he throws a traction grenade forward to pull enemies within a 9 meter radius for 2 seconds. And for his final skill, Lepic has Arm Launcher. Arm Launcher costs 40 mana to activate with a 65-second cooldown and switches his arm to an arm launcher, turning his prosthetic arm effectively into a cannon. This consumes 10 mana every second and returns back to his normal weapons when his mana runs out. When attacking, the arm launcher fires a powerful shell, inflicting skill attack times 55.6% damage to enemies within a 5 meter radius. Upon landing, the shell causes a flame that inflicts constant damage of skill attack times 25.96% per second for 4 seconds to enemies within a 4 meter radius. And for his passive, Lepic has 9 lives, which doesn't use any mana but does come with a 600-second cooldown. Upon receiving fatal damage, Lepic becomes immune to all damage for 5 seconds, and immune to mass control effects. When the effect is over, Lepic recovers 50% of his max HP. The recovery rate is not affected by HP heal ratio or HP leech ratio statuses. And as a side note, mass control are effects that limit movement such as knockback, stun, and freeze. As you can see, Lepic is built around damage and AoE, or area of effect attacks, using explosives to maximize his DPS against large groups. Lepic plays very much as your standard soldier DPS, focusing on damage output, using the traction grenade to pull enemies into a clump, Power Stream to buff his skills, and then a grenade or the arm launcher to do huge damage to the enemies all clumped up. Next up, we have my starting Descendant, Ajax. Ajax was retired from the military, working as a professor at a military college. But after hearing about the Helldivers led by his old friend Aisha being killed, he decided to rejoin, with the headquarters happy to have him back as an experienced, skilled commander. Ajax used his experience of being lost in the void for years during a dimensional gate experiment to create a suit of armor, ready for the third phase of his military life. Being an expert of distorting space, Ajax creates barriers allowing him to shield his allies, creating walls and bubbles. His first skill is Reverse Door. Some of the numbers for my Ajax skills might be slightly higher than what you see starting out, with me having leveled them up a little bit, but it will give you a general idea of what to expect. Reverse Door uses 24 mana with a 32-second cooldown, and creates a barrier for 25 seconds. The barrier has a defense equivalent to Ajax's defense times 100 and HP equivalent to max HP times 160%. When hit by an enemy projectile, the barrier accumulates void energy equivalent to inflicted damage times 700%, using enhanced skill adds enhanced effect. Enhanced effect: when enhanced barrier is hit, it reflects damage equivalent to 30% of Ajax's defense. His second skill is Void Walk, costing 25 mana with a 12-second cooldown. When hitting the ground after jumping, inflicts enemies within a 9 meter radius with skill attack times 69% damage and stuns them. Using enhanced skill adds enhanced effect. As a side note, they have stun all actions limited for 3 seconds, and the enhanced effect increases current shield by max shield times 40% for 16 seconds. For his third skill, Ajax has Expulsion. Expulsion costs 30 mana with a cooldown of 10 seconds, strikes nearby enemies within a 5 meter radius with skill attack times 70% damage and knockback effect. Using enhanced skill adds enhanced effect. Knockback pushes small, medium, large enemies 5, 4 and 3 meters back. Enhanced effect increases range to 7 meter radius for 16 seconds, current shield increases by 40% of max shield. And for his final skill, he has Hypercube, with a mana cost of 45 and a 32-second cooldown. This creates a dome-shaped barrier for 25 seconds. The barrier has defense equivalent to Ajax's defense times 100% and HP equivalent to max HP times 160%. When hit by an enemy projectile, the barrier accumulates void energy equivalent to inflicted damage times 700%, using enhanced skill adds enhanced effect. Enhanced effect: when enhanced barrier is hit, it reflects damage equivalent to 30% of Ajax's defense back. And his passive skill is Void Vault. Accumulates void energy equivalent to 500% of damage taken from enemy. Attack increases by 10, 20, 30% when void energy gauge reaches 30, 60 and 100%. Upon reaching 100% void energy, consumes 50% of max void energy to use enhanced skill. When out of combat, void energy decreases by 10% of max storage every 1 second. So it goes without saying that Ajax really wants to work as the group tank, using his barrier and hypercube to shield his allies. So far there have been 2 different ways I've really enjoyed running Ajax. In a group, playing as the tank works great, using the hypercube to protect objectives and teammates, and pairing it up with Void Walk and Expulsion to push them back, keeping them out of the cube. Solo, I've actually had a lot of fun being more aggressive with him, charging into groups, opening with Void Walk to do damage and stunning, then popping Expulsion to finish the group off. And we have our final starting Descendant, Viessa. After the Descendants broke up the underground criminal organization where Viessa learnt her trade, she found herself excavating in the snowfields of Dawn as part of a parole. After her excavation team were wiped out by a Colossus, leaving her the only survivor, the mark of the Descendant was found on her, and she became one not long after. Viessa uses water in the atmosphere to create ice and blizzards to freeze enemies. Her first skill is Ice Beam, costing 25 mana with a 9-second cooldown. This fires an ice beam that explodes where it hits, dealing skill attack times 31% damage at the center of the explosion, and dealing skill attack times 27% explosion damage to enemies within a 3.5 meter radius of the center. All enemies hit are inflicted with the Ice Shackle effect. Ice Shackle effect increases by 2 stages upon inflicting damage, increases by 1 stage upon inflicting explosion damage. Viessa's second skill is Frost Fog, with a mana cost of 24 and a 25-second cooldown. Using this enters Viessa into a Frost Fog state for 16 seconds. In a Frost Fog state, running speed is increased by 30%, shield by 39%, and ice sheets are created upon touching the ground. Enemies touching the ice are inflicted with the Ice Shackle effect. Ice Shackle effect increases by 2 stages upon touching the ice sheet. Her third skill is Ice Wave, costing 22 mana with a 7-second cooldown. This projects cold air forward in a 7.5 meter radius. Enemies touching the cold air are inflicted with skill attack times 45% damage and the Ice Shackle effect. The Ice Shackle effect increases by 2 stage upon damage. And for a 4th skill, she has Blizzard, costing 38 mana with a 20-second cooldown. This creates a blizzard for 6 seconds. Enemies caught in the blizzard are inflicted with skill attack times 50% damage every 2 seconds and the ice shackle effect. Blizzards deal explosion damage of skill attack times 50% to enemies within a 6-meter radius when it goes away. For Blizzard, Ice Shackle effect increases to stage 3 when inflicting damage and to stage 4 when inflicting explosion damage. And finally, Vyessa's passive is Ice Sphere, no mana cost with a 15-second cooldown. This creates ice spheres that circle around. When one enemy is inflicted with Ice Shackle stage 2, ice spheres shoot out to attack nearby enemies with skill attack times 30 damage and increases skill shackle by 2 stages. Ice Shackle Stage 1 decreases movement by 20% for 5 seconds. Stage 2 decreases speed by 40% for 5 seconds. Stage 3 decreases speed by 60% for 5 seconds. And finally, Stage 4 decreases speed by 100% for 8 seconds. Vyessa's role on the battlefield is crowd control, applying slows and freezes to enemies, making life easier for her and her teammates. This makes enemies easier to deal with and keeps friendlies safer in the process. So that is the 3 starting Descendants, but which is the right one for you? Well, that's not a decision I can make for you. I am not your dad. But if you want to be laying down damage, throwing grenades, or blasting things with your arm, Lepic is your man. If you want to safeguard your teammates, absorbing damage and throwing around AoE blasts, Ajax is your guy. Or if you want to be moving at speed, freezing enemies in your wake, then maybe Vyessa is who you're looking for. But remember, no matter who you choose, all 3 Descendants will be able to use any weapon type and all have the exact same starting attributes. Plus, once you complete the beginning of the game and arrive in Albion, you can actually switch between these 3 anytime you want if you're not happy with your first choice. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future content. And as always, a massive thank you to my supporters over on Patreon for helping me make this channel the best it can be. And if you would like to join them, you can support the channel for as little as £1 a month. You'll find a link to the Patreon in the description below. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one.